It's a new week of Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here, John here, you there. Full show. It's Reaction Monday, so we know what that means. Go ahead and get everything off your chest. Whatever's on your mind from the weekend. Could be Saturday, could be Sunday, could be both, could be anything leading up to it. Just go ahead and lay it all out in the Twitch pitch. Morning, Alex. So whatever's on your mind, we'll discuss it. And hour number one will be Atlanta United. Abe Gordon set to join us about 9:15, as he always does. He has told me that he is going to be inside the palatial offices of 92.9 The Game, that apparently Chipper will have had a very early morning. And so I can't wait to see Chip's reaction when Abe gets home. And it's like, okay, time to go out. Time to take me out. Let's go. But Abe Gordon joining us at 9:15. Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD and reffing down here. He'll join us at 10 o'clock. Yeah, we got VAR to talk about. And with VAR, we're going to go all the way back to LAFC because in end-of-week fashion, Pro in the Inside the Pro studio released the audio of the LAFC Atlanta United match and the discussion that we had last week about Bogish and the Dogs So Red. So that came out, and I want to use that to come forward to discuss what happened yesterday with VAR and the overarching thoughts of that. So Bart will be in to discuss women's national team and to discuss deaf women's national team. So we've got national team stuff to talk about with Bart. We've got reffing down here to talk with Bart. And so there's plenty to talk about, trust me. So whatever's on your mind from yesterday, from the weekend, whatever, that's what Reaction Mondays are all about. Over, under, or on par reactions, lay them all out there in the Twitch pitch, have conversations with each other, have conversations with us here on the show. And so we'll lay it all out here over the next 2 hours. I think Drew Dickinson is set to join us at 10:30 to talk Champions League and anything else on his mind. Maybe we can talk to Bart about the 22 players that Arsenal has decided to sit there and jettison after this year. Saw that this morning, and I was like, really? 22? But, yeah, we'll get into that as we go. There's some initial announcements about rosters for the Euros and for the Olympics. Kylian Mbappe and Griezmann not involved in the Olympic roster for France. So we've got those discussions. Player recruitment is ongoing. Looks like West Ham might be dropping 25 to 35 million on bringing in another player, and we'll see where it is from there. But anything from the morning that we'll keep an eye on. And once again, we'll talk about Atlanta United. We'll walk through that coming up in just a little bit. Opening kickoff, as always, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there it is. There's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on the 280-character app on Twitch or on our YouTubes, Soccer Down here on the YouTube's channel, right there, you click on that QR code, and then you go to our friends at Kickoff Coffee, use the code SoccerDownHere15, you get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Pay no attention to the QR code that I'm covering with my hands because I don't want you to get two QR codes and get your phone all confused. There we go. Okay. I got a question for you. How many of you would go to a contract signing? Like literally. How many of you would go to watch a coach sign a contract? Show of hands. How many? How many of you? Apparently, Fenerbahce's fans showed up in like the thousands, like the absolute thousands, to see Jose Mourinho sign his contract. I mean, this is like Raw and SmackDown stuff when you're getting ready for your pay-per-view coming up. You have the setup in the ring. There's the table. There's all the important folks, and they have the back and forth. They sign the contract or they don't, and they throw it at each other, and they destroy the set and all those kinds of things. But apparently, Fenerbahce fans went to Ulker Stadium to watch the chosen one sign his contract. That's how jacked up they are about this idea. They're just like, okay, so I guess there was a table. I mean, I don't necessarily have. I'm trying to see that you got Jose Mourinho taking like selfies with fans and stuff, and it looks like there's a dais, and he's signing the contract, and I'm guessing that this was just more for show than anything else. That the official contract had already either been signed, because if he's signing a contract and he doesn't have like his lawyer or his agent or his reps there, and he's just signing a deal, then that might be an issue. I'm guessing this was just for show. I'm going to sign this thing that looks amazingly like a contract. I'm going to sign this thing. So he has the big signing at the stadium, and Fenerbahce fans are going absolutely insane over this. But looking at the pictures, it looks like the stadium was pretty full. And he's taking, like I said, he's taking selfies. He's wearing scarves. It looks like he's got the John Tesh thing going with the denim shirt and then the blue undershirt underneath. But he told Fenerbahce fans, "This shirt is my skin." Thousands of fans packed into Sukru Sarakolu Stadium to watch him sign the 2-year deal. 5 months after being fired by Roma, dismissed. And so 15 minutes, basically, you wander into a stadium. How far ahead of time would you have to go in to get a seat, to get a good seat, to watch a contract signing? Literally, it's like a 15-minute deal. All the Fenerbahce fans, they wander into the stadium, and I'm guessing because it looked like it was pretty full. So you wander into the stadium to get a seat. God forbid you're in the upper deck or in like the last row. And you're sitting there and you're looking at Jose Mourinho signing an alleged contract. It's like, yeah, okay, I think I'll sign this. I'll sign this. This is my contract. I sign. What is my name? Name goes here. Okay, I sign. 3 times. 3. I signed 3 times. In triplicate this. So 15 minutes worth of contract signing. Jose Mourinho is there, replacing Ismail Kartal. 1 loss in the league last year, 99 points. Galatasaray had 102 points, and they won the league. So they fired their manager, Fenerbahce did, and then they brought in Jose Mourinho. And Jose Mourinho was asked in a press conference, by the way, if he had any interest in signing a player from AS Roma, specifically Romelu Lukaku. And so in his press conference, Jose Mourinho said, "I have no interest in signing players from Roma." What he didn't tell you is that Romelu Lukaku is basically at Chelsea, and he was loaned to Roma. So it's what you don't say as much as what you do say in these situations. But would you, and we will ask Abe Gordon this question, would you just wander into a stadium just to see a contract signing? I think I filibustered long enough. Got to 9:14. As Abe is now with us. Are you properly hydrated, sir, at the place?
I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready.
So my question in opening kickoff was, would you, sir, ever go to a stadium just to watch a contract signing?
As the water working in the said stadium, or how do we feel about that situation? There'd have to be free food.
Okay.
Free food for sure. Tickets would have to be free.
Yeah.
I'd have to be close. Like, I don't want to sit like upper deck watching it on the. It really probably just boils down to the free food.
Okay.
If I get a free lunch out of it, I might go.
Okay, because the reason I was asking, Jose Mourinho had his contract signing in Turkey, and it looked like the stadium was full. So you're talking probably like 40,000 folks. I don't quite have the Fenerbahce stadium capacity off the top of my head, but the joint looked full. And basically, he's in there for 15 minutes to take some selfies, get a scarf put around his neck, sign an alleged contract. Like I said, if he's just going in there and signing a contract and his lawyers ain't looked at it and he's signing it, it's like, bro, what are you up to here? I'm guessing that contract was a show contract. But yeah, 15 minutes in, smoke, flares, selfies, scarf, signing, out the door. Would you go for something like that?
No, but are we sure it was real people? Could have been the cardboard cutout recycles from the COVID times.
Well,
They're
I mean,
just show up in the stadium.
I'm looking at the pictures from the Telegraph, and it looked like absolute people and a massive humanity and red smoke and the whole deal, and a dude who's watching Jose said, "Is this line that I signed? I signed it right here."
They got more free time than I've got. That's all I'll say.
Okay. And so my question is, would you be like if your college team had a contract signing? It's like if you really were bringing in the hot property in college football, would you go to your stadium to see something like that? So that was opening kickoff this morning, considering all of the furor and the waving of the hands and the gnashing of teeth. And oh my God, we got Jose Mourinho. Holy crap! Let's go see the signing. So that was opening kickoff this morning. Like I said, it was just.
I'll go if I can get a percentage of his salary. Like you give every fan in attendance gets a small chunk of the the change.
Ooh,
might go for that.
I like that. So, I like that idea. I'll have to save that and move it forward. So that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10% reinvested into really cool stuff that they have earmarked at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, you slept on it. What do you think?
I think it's not good, if we're going to be honest. I think it's a situation where this season had expectations, and I don't see a path to matching or meeting those at this point. Certainly, the Supporter Shield is well beyond gone. I think a top 4 is well beyond gone. I don't even know if you can make the playoffs at this point. And there's not a good adjustment to be made, especially when you're coming up to 6 or so weeks here where you're going to be missing a number of key players due to international call-ups, the Olympics, personal matters, injuries, a variety of reasons. And quite frankly, I think the disappointing thing of all this is you were hopeful that Wednesday at Inter Miami was the start of something. We had said on the Five Stripes Countdown, the one thing you can't have happen is for that to be a lone result.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, is what it's turning out to be. You lose your 5th straight at home. And quite frankly, we're right back to where we were, where the XG is one thing and the actual G is another. And chances created are being wasted, and it's frustrating. For all, I guess we call Charlotte our rivals, whatever. Look, that felt like a game you probably could have had, and there's been way too many of those in this season, with the exception of probably the first 3 or 4 games of the year. Games you felt you could have had and didn't. There were a lot of questions about Gonzalo Pineda. I still don't really understand the idea behind Josh Cohen. The simplistic answer of it worked in Miami, so it'll work today is quite frankly inexcusable. Like that's just not strong enough. That's not what you do as a manager. And that one was really frustrating. I don't know necessarily how the game changes with Brad Guzan. I certainly don't think the own goal happens. I would imagine Goose is a little more authoritative and punches that ball out. It never gets to Derek Williams. Just my personal thoughts. I'm not, no facto on that. I don't know if he's able to stop either of Abada's shots, but those weren't like some historic hit either. I mean, they didn't hit the side netting. They rolled along the ground. Felt like they should have been saved and weren't. So now they also shouldn't have been able to get through and into goal because defenders just stayed back and watched him give him space, and that's its own problem. But look, you're approaching a thing now that we've talked about, and we thought maybe Wednesday would kind of change the narrative on that, but it didn't. And you have to make a decision. You have 15 days off or 13, 12 days off, whatever it is, before your next game. And if you're going to make a change in terms of the leadership of this team, now would be the only time that actually makes sense to do it. It probably could have been done earlier. Match congestion was a main contributor as to why you didn't. But if Pineda is still the manager when you play the Houston Dynamo, I would expect that he's the manager for the remainder of the season. But right now, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
So, all right. So I was taking notes as you were talking. How are you in other sports about playing the hot hand?
I don't think it really. I mean, all sports are different, right? So I think if you're a hockey goalie and maybe you're a backup and you made a couple great saves, and we've talked about hockey goalies getting hot at the right time, I think maybe there's some discussion of that. I think you can look at matchups in Major League Baseball. This reliever's gotten a couple ground balls, stuff like that. But in terms of the overall scope of things, I mean, I just don't buy that. And also, what makes the hand hot? One game? Like one game in Miami? Does that – and I know we played the U.S. Open Cup, and he did well in the shootouts and stuff like that. But, like, I don't buy into that. I think you need to do what's best for your team. And over the course of time, maybe it works out on a short span, but over the course of the time, your best option is your best option for a reason. I mean, sometimes we see backup quarterbacks come in while a starter is hurt and getting checked out for a concussion, whatever, they lead a touchdown drive.
Right.
Well, when the starter's back healthy and cleared out of protocol, do we just let the backup continue? Like, no, you go with your starter because there's a reason he's your starter. He's been better over the long term of things, and he's probably going to be better in the short term as well. So I understand it, but to me, that's not really a mindset I would use. Unless the plan has been to make a change permanent. And I don't see why that would be the case, because Brad has been better, in my opinion, this year than I had expected. And so I am not taking that away from him, certainly not because of the red card suspension, which was nonsensical anyways.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in an hour or two. All right, so then let me put Josh v. Brad to the side, and then what about the lineup with the 10 going forward, where you're playing the three center backs for the second match in a row because of how it worked against Miami? Yes, I know that that Charlotte traditionally does not have two up top, but you are dealing with a power forward in Ajimong, and you want to make sure that he doesn't get anything past you. What did you think about the idea formationally of going with that same formation that got you the big win in Miami?
Yeah, a couple of things, and I think we're maybe simplifying too much what three center backs does, because to me, the biggest benefit of running the three center backs is keeping Thiago Almada in an attacking position, keeping him higher up the field, where he doesn't feel like he has to drop back and help defend necessarily. And when he gets the ball, he can turn and run and make his mark. I think that's what happened in Wednesday against Miami. Here's the problem. You were never going to have the space against Charlotte that Miami gave you, because they just simply weren't going to put the numbers into the attack that Miami did. And so the premise, the whole idea of why having three center backs worked against Miami is pretty much null and void against Charlotte. And we kind of expected that. And we had said leading up, we had said even after the Miami game, I don't know when we see that again, because Charlotte doesn't make sense, because they don't put the numbers into attack that would require three center backs. And so, again, this whole mindset of it worked in Miami, it'll work against Charlotte, very clearly was not the case. And to add to that, you've obviously got some injuries you had to deal with. You had some lack of fitness you had to deal with. And so there's some other aspects, but I'll be honest, this was not a very good game, in my opinion, for Derek Williams. Obviously, the own goal aside, there were some moments in the second half where I'm like, dude, you got to stop backing up. Like, at some point, you got to challenge a shooter, especially since he's already put one in from this distance. So it was a tough look all around on defense. This is a team in Charlotte that had scored the second fewest goals in the entire Eastern Conference, and you let them get three up on you. I felt you could win this game if you put two home, and you did, and it still wasn't enough. So, yeah, it's something that worked once. It's not something you had really done at all any point the rest of the season. I don't think that going back to it, considering the adjustments from the opponent, I don't think it was the greatest decision, to be honest.
And post-match, word did come out of the locker room that Derek did take responsibility for the second goal, because if you watch it on replay, Derek does not step out in time for Abada to take the shot. And so Derek owned up to that post-match.
Yeah, look, I'm nothing wrong with Derek Williams. Everyone has a bad game. I think he's allowed to have a game where it just didn't feel right for him, and yesterday seemed to be that between the own goal in that moment. And so I think his return has been very important to pair him alongside Steon Gregerson. But I do think you kind of lose a little bit of what they do as a pairing when you spread them out over the course of 3 center backs. And then obviously Steon dealing with another injury. We'll see what his status is. We do have 12 days off, so we're all hopeful. Glad to hear it's not a knee injury. They said it was a hamstring at least. So we'll be hopeful on that. But yeah, I mean, look, it's going to happen. There's no denying that the guys are going to give up goals. But it's really, really frustrating. And to me, the worst part of it was like it wasn't some wonder strike. Like the both of Abada's goals, they were hit well. They didn't ripple the side netting. They weren't in the upper 90. They kind of dribbled along the ground. It just felt like they could have been avoided one way or another, where Williams could have stepped up, whether Cohen could have got to it. I wasn't satisfied that those were the goals and the strikes that beat you. I think that's part of the frustration as well.
And getting back into that idea, that once again, readdressing the clinical nature of, there were 3 opportunities in the first 13, I think 4 in the first 19, where this game could have been blown wide open. It had Saba with his 2 opportunities. I think Thiago had 1, and then
Muyumba had 1 as well.
Right. So Saba in the 3rd and the 9th, Muyumba in the 12th, Jamal in the 19th, and Thiago in the 23rd. So 5 chances in the first 23 minutes.
Well, and this is what I pinpointed with Garrett Chapman in the postgame show, was the same ball that put Saba in one-on-one with the keeper was the ball that Atlanta United had been beaten by twice this season. An errant pass on the back line that puts a guy in on goal, right? Here's the problem. The other teams buried their chances and we didn't. And that, to me, is almost equally as frustrating as anything else. I mean, look, when you look back at what Almada was trying to do and what Muyumba was trying to do, look, they are professional soccer players, but those are very difficult strikes to hit one time. Your body is moving a different direction from the ball. You're trying to get your foot around it. You're trying to pick out an upper court. I understand how difficult that is. Obviously, they are top of the line players. You'd hope they'd find a way to hit that one. Saba is the opportunity, though, that you really need to have back. He tried to wrap his foot around one. He didn't get the bend on it either. Maybe don't get cute. Maybe chip the keeper. Maybe go drive it right. Whatever it needs to be. But it was a one-on-one with a goalie. It was a gift given to you by a bad touch on defense. The same bad touch that has cost Atlanta United multiple goals this season, and you didn't make them pay. If you score that goal, the game probably ends, if we're being honest. Yeah. It's probably a completely different game. Certainly if it plays itself out to then still getting the Almada goal later in the half. If you go up 2-0 with Charlotte's limitations offensively, they're not coming back from it. So, yeah, again, we can talk about chances created as much as we want. I know a lot of people want to blame Gonzalo Pineda for that, and ultimately it might cost him his job. There's no denying that. Someone eventually has to take the fall. But again, and I've said this with you before, John, I can't find a definition of how it's Gonzalo Pineda's fault that Sabalo Janitze, one-on-one with the keeper, can't find a way to put it in the back of the net. And same thing with all of the other opportunities. The ball from Brooks Lennon that was just behind TRA. That's not a call from Pineda in the moment. Say, hey, put it here versus put it there. That's something the players are doing. And whether TRA's run was too fast, whether the ball was behind them, whatever it was, they didn't connect. That's not on Pineda for them not connecting in the moment. Same thing with the Almada shot, the other Muyumba strike. So, look, we understand the blame is going to be placed, but at the same time, if there's a new manager in there, do we think Saba all of a sudden finishes that chance or that Brooks Lennon all of a sudden connects with TRA on that cross? Like, it's very tough to place blame. I understand some of the frustration, but so much more of what's gone wrong this season with Atlanta United is not about Gonzalo Pineda. It is about the players on the pitch not getting it done in the key moments. But ultimately, we know where the blame is eventually going to fall, and that's going to be unavoidable.
Abe Gordon went through his 15 minutes like that. And I mean, when there's stuff to talk about, it is 90 miles an hour and we get a lot done. So, once again, my friend, thank you for dropping by on Mondays as you always do. And any other parting shots before you actually head back to your paying gig?
No, I mean, look, we've got, 12, 13 days off here, a little bit of time to refresh. I know some guys are going to be gone, but whatever happens over these next 2 weeks, we need a different mindset, a different mentality, a refreshed approach, and just a reminder that some of the goals of the season are probably gone. We understand that, but not all of them. You can still find a way to start to win some games and pick up 3 points a week and maneuver your way up the standings. We all believe the talent is there for this team. They've got to get it done. They've got to showcase it. But I'm still hopeful. And look, I'm like one of those, like, always going to be optimistic until it's like obviously pessimistic time. But I'm always going to be hopeful that things turn around. I think the Braves are going to turn around on offense and go on a streak. I think Atlanta United is going to turn it around and find their way into the playoffs. Now, what can they do when they get there? They're going to be, at this point, most likely a road team in an opening round, and we saw how that worked out last year.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is still some quality in this season, and there's plenty of time to show that. So take this time and kind of regroup, reset, figure out what you want to do over these next 6 weeks with so many guys out for various reasons. And come back and approach it the right way. And let's start to win a couple of games. You got to win at home. You got to win on the road. And it's up to the players to get that accomplished.
At Abe Gordon, at 929 the game, pre and post host. See, if I say that too quickly, pre and post host, that just gets completely and totally jumbled together with you and Garrett Chapman. As always, my friend, great to have you here to kick things off every single week. And we will catch up with you next time.
You got it. Appreciate it, John. Thanks.
There we go. The properly hydrated Abe Gordon is dropping by this morning, and he was in town at Colony Square doing stuff at 92.9 the game. So, all right, let's go over the highlights, and it's 2 plays, and I will play the national version of what happened on the own goal. And like I said, we'll get into it more when Bart joins us at the top of the hour. 2 main topics with Bart. Inside the VAR studio, like I said, we'll go back to LAFC, and there's a segment that was aired by Pro that I want to air about the discussion about Denny Bouanga for those of you that missed it, to get their explanation as to what went down. You get to hear the audio, and I can't wait to hear the audio for what happened yesterday if they decide to play it. But you'll get the audio from what happened on the Denny Bouanga, Mateus Bogish Dog So Red. You'll get to hear that. And that's courtesy of our friends at Pro. And we'll discuss that. We'll discuss what happened in the matchup that created the equalizer for Atlanta United and Charlotte. That'll be with Bart. We'll also talk about the women's national team and kicking off with Emma Hayes in charge at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. So it'll be a busy half hour or so with Bart. And like I said, 22 players apparently are gone from Arsenal at the end of this season. So we'll talk to Bart about that. I don't know what mug Bart's going to have this morning, but we'll get into that coming up in short order. Bart's going to join us at the top of the hour. Since I didn't get the chance to do it properly, here we go. That is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, don't forget to use the QR code. Get the QR code. You punch your way into Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 when you check out. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiative, stuff that they have earmarked as being cool to the advancement of the game. Once again, that's our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Let me get the housekeeping done while I'm thinking about it. There's the scarf to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. I saw Uncle No Pockets is in this morning, and I got the scarf shipped to Oregon, to Unc's palatial estate. So we've gone to California, Oregon, Colorado, Alabama, Texas, and obviously here with the help of the Abstermobile. So if you want to help out the Marshall Islands and the Marshall Island Soccer Federation, there is the scarf. It is $32. If you want it shipped, it's $32 plus $5. And then once again, all those proceeds will help out the Marshall Island Soccer Federation as they build from the ground up. They actually have their first ever women's coach. So we're trying to track down an interview with the first ever women's coach in the history of the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Spent some time at Pittsburgh State as a player in a Division II. So once again, 32 plus 5 if you want it mailed. If I see you in person, then I see you in person, and we can do it that way. So email me, email the show, DM me, DM the show, and we can figure it all out. There is a form that you can fill out in the Discord that can help out the transportation process. And like I said, whether it goes with the Abstermobile or whether it goes through the Postal Service, it's probably quicker, even if you're out of state, that it goes through the Abstermobile. But 32 plus 5 if you want it shipped, and that helps out the Marshall Islands and the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, because I'm fairly certain that you got the jersey and or the bucket hat, because I know I got the jersey. But that's our scarf to help out the Marshall Islands as they continue to build from scratch. Okay. Getting into the hellos from the morning, we get to see who is here. And I know that Non-Talks wanted to talk about the Canadian men's national team and Jesse Marsh. I can take care of that really quickly. I would love to know the funding. Obviously, the funding to have him as a sponsored title, does that account for the rest of his staff? I want to know what the budget is. I want to know, when it comes to the budget to go and talk to players and recruit players around the planet, who's paying for it? Because Canada Soccer doesn't have the budget. What's the budget? Where's the budget coming from? Where's all the other money coming from to help out Canada Soccer? Or is this just a one-sided investment for a program that is in serious debt and that could be blowing through their government subsidy in maybe the next year? I think they burned through $10 million in Canadian government subsidies, and they are still in serious financial problems. But apparently paying Jesse Marsh and maybe his staff through a sponsored deal, it's a subsidized deal from the Major League Soccer franchises in the country. And so Jesse Marsh has an official title that takes up two sides of a business card. Does that account for the rest of his staff too, or is it just Jesse? What about his travel plans? Is that paid for by this gig, or is it paid for by something else? I have more questions than I have answers. Having him there, he'll obviously have a chip on his shoulder with the talent that is there in Canada, but I still have more financial questions than I do personnel questions, and how Jesse Marsh will be navigating all of that when you don't have a home friendly, and you're and the only reason that you have friendlies in the first place is because those countries that you're playing against are the ones that are subsidizing those matches. So Non-Talks, that's the answer when it comes to Jesse Marsh. Morning, Alex. Morning, Abby. Great to see Abby, and it took a little while in the shower, but my A+ stamp from Abby wore off. By the way, it was great to see everybody out at the tailgate and the supporters lot. Saw Tom, saw Abby, saw our friends from Faction, Kevin Kinley. It was great to see him. And I apologize up front, because when I'm out there, it is a whirlwind, and it's great to see folks, and great to say a sentence or two. And like I said, I'm flying around at like 900 miles an hour. And so I apologize for that up front, but it's great to see everybody, get a quick hi and see you before, we all head into the building. Morning, Pars. Morning, Tom. Morning, Derek. Morning, Kefsey. Brandon, Hunt City. Yeah, Hunt City beat Carolina Core in MLS Next Pro. Morning, Dell. Yes, they do. They had it at one point. They didn't have technology. They had the Target Gold Cam, for those of you that remember it. And I guess Target didn't have the money to continue to sponsor it. You remember the Target Gold Cam, where it looked like it was something down the line? Might have been a little detached, but I think it was inside the post. You had the Target Gold Cam. But apparently Target didn't have the money to keep sponsoring it. So Dayton Hudson should be drawing the subject of your ire for not being able to continue sponsoring a goal cam for situations like this. Let's see. Non-Talks, thanks for dropping by. First time here for Non-Talks. And so hopefully my Jesse Marsh answer has helped out with this morning. So morning, Will. Morning, Pars. Yes, Hala Madrid. Like I said, we'll get into that at like 10:30 and beyond. Morning, Ricky, by the way. Yeah, Hala Madrid y nada más. Let's see. I'm trying to see who else is here that I might have missed in waving hello to. Non-Talks is very, very busy this morning. Let's see. There's Pars. There's Will, and like I said, and there's Unc. Let's see, morning Uncle, and morning Hutch, and I'm trying to see morning Emilio, and I'm trying to catch up. Morning Bart. Like I said, Bart will be with us in 20 minutes. So morning Bart early, and then morning Bart in 20 minutes, and we'll do stage 2. Let's see. There's Hutch. There's Unc, and I think that's everybody. Yeah, basically, Alex. Yes, inside the VAR studio. What is your favorite sound? Exactly. I wish I could do it like Mr. Lipton could. I might be able to try that. So, morning, Wiley. All right. So there you go. All right. Good morning, everybody. So once again, get your comments in, and like I said, have conversations with each other, have conversations with me and with everybody here, and all the stuff that's going on. Let's get into the highlights. And so let's get into the first goal of the match, and it came from Thiago Almada. We mentioned those first handful of opportunities. Morning, Rich, by the way. Let's see. So we talked about all those opportunities, the 4 different players and the 5 different opportunities in the 3rd, the 9th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 23rd. 2 from Saba, 1 from Tristan Muyumba, 1 from Jamal Tiare, 1 from Thiago in the 23rd. But after the 23rd minute, shortly thereafter, you get this moment from Thiago, and once again, courtesy of 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app, Atlanta United goes up 1-0.
Saba dribbles to the edge of the 18. Cut back pass Almada, 20 yards out. Almada dribbles into the box, through traffic to Saba. Left side of the 18, his cross is blocked. To Almada, shot! Score! A beautiful team goal for Atlanta United. Finished off by Thiago Almada, who deflects it past Christian Colina to give Atlanta United the 1-0 lead.
And the one thing that I didn't notice until slowing it down, obviously, Thiago Almada short hopped that. After Caleb tries to send it in and it deflects and it pops up and it heads back out toward Thiago, it takes a short hop and Thiago grabs the wedge and he puts it into the top of the net. I mean, that was crazy and crazy talented that Thiago pulled that off a short hop and popped it in. Morning, Tommy. So short hop from Thiago, and it's 1-0. Here is the once again, thanks to our friends at 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app. Here is the national call from our friends at Apple TV and Major League Soccer. Danny Higginbothams and Steve Cangelosi on the call here. Here's the national call of the equalizer, and this is from their edit. I did not pull it from the match itself. Otherwise, we'd be going from here until about 10 till when it comes to what eventually would be the equalizer. I'm going to save my personal thoughts on this until Bart comes in at 10 o'clock to discuss. So here is the national call of what happened on the equalizer. Once again, Kanji and Danny on the call, courtesy of our friends at Apple TV. And this is going to go for about a minute.
It is Uranen once again. On the outswinger, this takes a deflection. Cohen did it cross the line. A partial celebration in progress, but no indication yet that this is a goal.
Have a look. And it will probably be this angle. And you just have to look at Cohen's left hand. When he goes for it, his hand is completely over the line as in terms of in the goal. It's a valiant effort, but I do know. The interesting thing in this situation is we know that VAR, they think it's a clear and obvious error. But there is no goal line technology. So the angles that we're going to see here are the angles that the referee's going to see. And it's so tough. So what...
After review, the ball did cross the goal line. The final decision is a goal.
I'm holding my point. I'm holding my points, and I'm biting my tongue until after the top of the hour. So 1-1 at that point. Liel Abada scores twice to make it 3-1. Once again, we talked about Derek Williams, who post-match admitted that he took the heat for the second goal since he didn't step out further outside the edge of the arc to meet Abada before he launched it and got it past Josh Cohen to make it 2. Then I want to say about 13 minutes later, ended up getting the second goal to make it 3-1. Then the substitutions come in. Shande Silva, Gigi, and Jay Fortune come in to be a part of the discussion. This, as Atlanta United is trying to close the gap late, once again, courtesy of our friends at 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app.
And Jay Fortune steals it from Uberman. It rolls to Saba. Saba coming down the right wing to the top of the 18. Played through to Fortune. His cross to Shande Silva. Takes a touch. Shot. Score. And Atlanta United gets up off the bat with Shande Silva's beautiful finish. Bending that around Kalina to make it 3-2.
And that would be your final 3-2 there. Shande Silva's goal, by the way, using the defender as a screen with a great amount of bend on the ball. So great work by Shande Silva. And that was 3-2 at that point. That was your final score. And now with the standings after the weekend is over, and looking at the standings in the Eastern Conference, we'll go all the way through it. Miami at 35 points through 18 matches. They're on top. Cincinnati's 2 points back. There's a little bit of space from the two teams in New York City. NYCFC, Nick Cushing, they have really seemed to have found their rhythm. 29 points, and they have played 16 matches, but they have one more win than Red Bulls. That's why they are third and Red Bulls are fourth. Charlotte with the win. They are in fifth at 25 points, 17 matches played. Toronto is 24 points, 17 matches played. Columbus, obviously, with things that they're focusing on, still seventh place, 24 points, and they've only played 14 matches. So they've got some matches in hand where they can do some serious damage and rocket up the table. Columbus, by the way, took it on the chin in the Triple C final to Pachuca. First 14 minutes or so, they looked like they were there, and then they just hit a wall because going to that particular venue is like going to Denver and a half, 8,000 feet above sea level. Denver, I mean, think about it. You go to Denver, and then you add half another Denver on top of that. That's what you're getting into. And so great run by Columbus Crew to get to the final of the Triple C. And then they lose in the final in the Triple C. But right now they're in seventh at 24 points. Then you've got another bit of a gap. Philadelphia's at 20, and they are in eighth place. Nashville right now is ninth place with 19 points. They have one less match played, and they have a better goal difference than DC. So Nashville, 3 points ahead of Atlanta United right now. They are in the final playoff spot. DC below the playoff bar, 19 points. They played 17 matches. Orlando and Montreal, identical records after 16. Orlando has a better goal difference. Montreal has given up 35 goals this season. Atlanta right now, 16 points. Chicago is at 15 points at 3-8-6 with 17 matches played. New England, because of their time in the Triple C, they've only played 14 matches. They have 10 points. They are 3-10-1. They have scored 11 goals in 14 matches this year. Western Conference. RSL, it is 33 points for Salt Lake, 17 matches, 9-2-6, and Chicho Arango had the hat trick on the weekend. LAFC is second at 30 points. Minnesota and LA are both at 28 points. Minnesota has one more win and two matches in hand on LAG, and so that gets you to the second grouping. Vancouver is at 25 points. They're in fifth. Austin, 23 points. They are in sixth. Houston, same number of wins as Colorado, but they played one less match, and they have a better goal difference. That is why Houston is 7, Colorado is 8. Portland is 9th after 17 matches, basically at the halfway point of the season. 20 points there. Then below the playoff line, conversation with Nico Moreno should be interesting on Thursday. Seattle is below the playoff bar right now, 1-1-5 at home. Never thought I would be saying that about a Seattle club. St. Louis is in 11th place at 17 points. They are winless on the road. Dallas is worse than winless on the road. They're 0-6-2. San Jose's at 11 points. Kansas City is at 11 points, and maybe the conversation should be had with Peter Vermes about Peter Vermes. Both have 16 matches. San Jose has one more win. San Jose is 3-11-2, and they've given up 39 goals this season. Kansas City is last with 11 points, 16 matches, 24 scored, 31 allowed, 1-4-3 at home, 1-5-2 away from Children's Mercy. in Kansas City. So that's where we are right now at the standings, as we have, for some folks, for most folks, we actually do have games this weekend. For some folks, and this is that option that you are given, that you can play through a window or you can take a break through the window. We actually do have 4 matches on Saturday. New England and Red Bulls, Sporting in Seattle, Minnesota and Dallas, and St. Louis and Portland, and all those are early. So it'll be an early night for Kevin Egan, our buddy in MLS 360. But we do have some teams playing matches this weekend as a part of making up matches before everybody gets back into it, starting on the 14th and going the weekend of the 14th and the 15th. So, there you go. So that's how things stand right now in Major League Soccer with the standings and everything, as we get you ready for most folks a bit of a gap week, and we'll see what happens once again with Atlanta United being the big topic of conversation. And like I said, on all of these Reaction Mondays, I want to make sure that everybody gets everything off their chest, because I don't want to have it just kind of hanging with you. I really don't. So let me roll through some of the comments here. Let's see. Dell, MLS needs goal line technology. Yeah, they do. Absolutely do. Derek, goals change games, VAR changes games. Yes, it does. Like I said, we'll talk to that with Bart coming up in just a little bit. Tom says today will be a very telling day. Will, more losses this season at home than any other. 4-4-8, 13 days off. Should about do it. Let's see. And Ricky's discussing Champions League. And yeah, there was a thing with Macron, Ricky, and I'll see if I can find that for 10:30 and beyond. Macron was really wanting to have Mbappe announced, but Mbappe and Griezmann apparently were not announced as a part of the Olympic team. So I think you might have a president who is slightly angry about something like that. So we'll see what's up with that. Let's see. There's a discussion about the Miami Heat in 08 and 09. Let's see. You guys went down the line about that. And let's see. Travel plans for some. And let's see. When Non-Tox is asking about Jesse Marsh. Jesse Marsh. When did Jesse Marsh get signed? Because we made a big deal out of it when it happened. When did Jesse Marsh sign? April 29th. Jesse Marsh likely to be appointed as South Korean coach. I don't quite think that happened. It was a couple of weeks ago, because when Marsh was discussed in the USMNT search back on May 16th, he said he criticized U.S. Soccer over their treatment of him during the process. So, surprisingly announced in June that Marsh would not be getting the gig. But yeah, Jesse Marsh was named new men's coach in Canada May 13th. So almost a month. So like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, 3 weeks ago, Jesse Marsh was named as the head coach of the Canadian men's national team. What I wanted to get your thoughts on, and it had to do with the lineup. And Gonzalo Pineda had mentioned that he stuck with the lineup, and this is why I wanted to ask Abe this question, was that he stuck with the lineup that got him the win in Miami. And obviously you had all of those folks on the bench that could help you out, knowing that you had a 2-week window, a 13-day window before your next match, that you had Gigi on the bench, you had Jay Fortune on the bench, you had all of that firepower on the bench to help you out. So with a 13-day break, then you end up, you roll the lineup over, because it got you the same kind of success that you had in Miami that you were looking to have against Charlotte. And the 3 center backs by look, and I know that we all got kind of locked into the idea of the 3 center backs, but what you saw once the ball was kicked was, think of it like you're turning a volume knob on an old school television. And while you had the 3 center backs, you turn the knob to the right, and that sent Caleb forward, and that turned Luis Abram basically into a left back. And so you got Caleb more advanced into the attack. Luis would be more of a left back. You'd have your two center backs with Derek and Stian, and Brooks was Brooks. And so, yes, it looked like you had the 5 initially, but then when you turn the dial, it sent Caleb forward, moved Luis over, and you had the 4 backs that you're used to seeing in the 4-3-3. So it looked a little different until the ball got kicked. And then when you got into your offensive game set, then that's when Caleb got released and you got to see the activity down the left-hand side. You saw Tiago flare out to the left. Caleb would come in for either an underlapping run or he'd go to the outside on an overlapping run. And they had success early on going up against Byrne, running down that left-hand side. He was having a rough, because once again, you look at those, and I know that we could get back into the idea of being clinical, but all of that activity, the offense with you had Saba, the Saba shot that came off the turnover that was on the attacking left-hand side. Muyamba, I think, was left-hand side. Jamal was a cross that was slightly behind him, and he had to try to almost do like a side flare scorpion kick kind of a thing to try to put a shot on target. Most of that activity where Atlanta United was seeing success was Tiago and Caleb and all of that work down the left-hand side. So that was when you turn the dial to the right, you got to see that activity working its way down. As I'm sitting here and looking at Dell and Pars. Dell, you gifting me things? I have no earthly idea how to use them. Pay it forward. Gift other folks. I don't know. I don't know how to take advantage of those kinds of things. I love the thought, trust me, but I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to activate it. So you saw the early chances. You weren't clinical, but then we played the highlights, and you saw the opportunity for Tiago to put the ball in the back of the net. But yeah, if those chances that we saw in the first quarter of the match, 1 or 2 of them go in, obviously the game is different. But no, when you look at things formationally, I know it looked like it was 3 center backs, but what you did, since you sent Caleb into the attack, you just rolled things over and you turn the steering wheel a couple of notches, and then that way Luis is a left back and you're off and running. So that was kind of the look that I saw with the formation and how things were. Tommy, I understand you don't want to change what worked, but he wanted Silva to start. You have to change the formation if you want Almada and Saba to start too. Well, I mean, if Shande to me is a rhythm guy. Shande to me is a rhythm guy, and I think that if you feed Shande, and we also don't know, was Shande 45, 60 fit? Was he 30 fit? Don't know. But what you did against Miami in that formation is, once again, with that space on the left, you create the opportunity, and there's a space there, and running up against Kritsov, which you can do pretty much all day. And that back line is the back line for Miami ain't all that, especially with the injuries, Nicola Frere being out for the season. You can run at Sergei Kritsov. You can get in behind that. And with Charlotte running at Byrne on that left-hand side, you were seeing all of the advantages that Atlanta United had in that particular portion of the attack. And so that was the early chances. You got the one, and then everything decided to turn on a dime. And since let me see if I can filibuster for however we get to the top of the hour. Bart's in the green room, so he sees me and he knows what's going on. So what we're going to talk about with Bart is women's national team and what happened out with the Rabid Prairie Dogs at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce City, Colorado. And we might, drop a little bit of the deaf national team in there as well for the doubleheader that was shown on True, and that was a part of their package. True and Max, I believe, was where it was. And so now, since it is 10 o'clock, I only had to filibuster for about 40 seconds. So there we go. It is time for Bart to come dropping in, complete with his background on a Monday. Well done, sir. Nice job.
Good morning, John.
Yes. I wanted to. So, do you want to start talking about the women's national team and we drift into other things?
You might as well talk about it with me now, because otherwise you're liable to get angry Bart. So let's talk about the women's national team.
Okay, so we'll get Dell wants Atlanta United first. So no, that's not going to happen, sir. We need authoritative Bart. So now Will wants you to talk Atlanta, Dell wants you to talk Atlanta, but we're going to talk women's national team. Emma Hayes, the great unveiling, the great unveiling has happened, and it was a comfortable win. What'd you think?
Well, I think first off, I'm going to throw a little bit of a wet blanket on things and just say that South Korea is not a very good team, especially this iteration right now. Definitely not anywhere close to the team that qualified for the 2023 World Cup. And then they haven't been good since. So you do have to kind of look at this match from that lens. But at the same time, it's a team that is implementing something completely new. They're doing this thing called trying to score, which is, a complete, shift from what we had seen last summer. And that said, you had, as Emma said, tired minds, tired legs, still go out there and be able to score multiple goals in each half, which is a positive. I thought overall you just saw a team that, I know I'm not joking, but a team that was intent on trying to score goals, which is a difference from what we saw under the Vlatko era, because Vlatko was so dependent on eliminating risky opportunities that could lead yourself exposed at the back. So this new era looks to be an era of trying to attack, trying to score, coordinated, intentional attacking movements. And you saw all of that during the match. And again, not your best opponent, but it's not like you were trying to operate at your best, because all these players are still learning the system that Emma wants. Hopefully it's not super complicated, but the info dump of this week was probably heavy on their minds, because that's, it is weird, right? It is. If you were, say when you're looking at, I don't know, Atlanta United and the winner of 2025 for their preseason, they're going to get a lot of info dump when the new coach comes in and gives all that information, but they're going to have a month and a half to process it. And this team had to get all this and process it. I'm sure that, the training yesterday and today won't be easy either. So it's a lot that they're dealing with, and to put out 4 goals is pretty good.
Well, and I would think that as a part of the learning process under the new boss, you would want that, that soft launch, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, where you don't want to sit there and go up against the top 15 competition and sit there and get thumped when you're trying to introduce new ideas and a new coach and new vernacular and technology.
John, that's going to come in about a month, right? When they have to play Australia and Germany in their group stage at the Olympics. So yeah, you're right. It's good to get this out of the way against a not great South. And obviously, South Korea is a team that we've played a lot, and they're not usually at this down point. They've qualified for 3 straight Women's World Cups, but did not get it out of even their qualification group from Asia for this Olympics. Lost to their northern rivals. That probably can't sit too well with that federation. But you're right, though. You still have to look at the team that played, and they played very well, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, so Emma Hayes quoted as saying, "As we say in England, it's been a lovely week."
Bless her heart. I loved her quote about how she's like, I'm English, I'm dealing with altitude, I'm dealing with sun, I'm dealing with heat. And we forget that probably Denver, Colorado at this time of year is still hotter than England is. Definitely sunnier. So good for her dealing with that as well.
And 19,010 sold out crowd.
Sold out. Yeah, sold out. Love it.
Dick's Sporting Goods Park for the first one. And you end up with Jane Campbell getting the start in net. Your defenders lineup was a nice
Georgia girl, by the way.
Yeah.
Ryder Marietta.
There you go. A nice Hunger, Naomi Girma, Tierna Davidson, and Emily Fox. Your midfield 2, Sam Coffey, Lindsey Horan. And this is how Soccer America has
that's about how it played out.
Yeah. Compartmentalized everybody. Yeah. And then your forwards, Macario and Smith and Rodman and Swanson. and everybody's getting 5s and 6s and 7s, and it's like, okay, yeah. Well, Emily Fox gets a 4 apparently from our friends at Soccer America, and Jane Campbell got a 5, and then going to the bench where you were allowed.
Campbell, I will say Campbell did not. She had a chance and didn't look great. She didn't have a lot to do, and there were 1 or 2 times where she had to do something, and it wasn't fantastic. But the Fox one's a little curious to me, but oh well, keep going.
And then your bench where you were allowed 6 subs on the day. Kruger, Shaw, Stab, and Dunn each got 5s. Rose Lavelle got a 6, and Corbin Albert came in for a cup of coffee and got, I guess, basically an incomplete. So what did you think of who you saw?
Well, first off, congrats to Sam Staub getting her first cap for the U.S. Women's National Team. It's been a long time coming for her. She's been a really good center back in NWSL. So that's good. Everyone else, I thought they looked fine. Again, I think it's hard to truly evaluate everyone because you are talking about a team that's learning how individually what they're doing on the field, plus in a team setting and the little societies, what they're doing on the field. So I thought overall it was pretty good. And I think, yes, you score off of 2 headers from Tierna Davidson. I don't think anyone had that one necessarily predicted before the game.
No.
But weird that you hire an actual set piece coach and you start scoring off set pieces, John. So clearly that worked. Congrats.
Hashtag irony. Yes.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I think overall it was good. The wet blanket is just, hey, South Korea is not fantastic, but overall you have to look at this and say this is a positive step. You get 4 goals to start off the Emma Hayes era. And hopefully you see more tomorrow night from just not necessarily growth, but just comfortability. I don't know what Emma's plan was for obviously Saturday, or you played Saturday. So Sunday is regen and maybe a little bit of, info dump more, but I think it's probably more film review, look at what we did, what we liked, and kind of probably reinforcing the positives. Today is probably another, just a walk through light training session. So you're not getting a whole lot of new stuff, I would imagine. So hopefully you see tomorrow night making the goods better and making the bads fewer. And that's what the goal is.
Make the bads less bads.
Fewer bads.
Kat Macario got the start for the first time in 781 days.
Yeah, a little bit of surprise. I know we've kind of all grown to love Jaden Shaw in that advanced midfield role, but I think this was kind of like if you're doing an experiment, John, you want to have one control variable. Mm-hmm. And I think Kat being familiar with Emma's system was probably the control variable. Again, I'm not quite sure how Emma Hayes doesn't have she is not Gonzalo Pineda. She is not Greg Berhalter with their rigid system. But she does have patterns and philosophies that she wants to implement, which we saw. And I think Kat is a big part of that and why she started. But it's just good to have her back. I think she is one of the key injuries that we missed last summer. And you do have to wonder what would happen had Kat Macario been healthy in the summer of 2023.
Then the other element that was attached was the first game of the doubleheader. And it was a doubleheader, for those of you that did not know. It was a doubleheader there in Commerce City, Colorado. The women's deaf national team got their first ever home match, which sounds really wild to say. And yes, it was the margin of victory was big, but it was televised, and it was an effort that was put in there. I think Jamie Watson did play-by-play for the network. And it was a really cool moment for the advancement of the extended national teams to have the women's deaf national team get their first ever home match and then get the match televised at the front end of that doubleheader out there in suburban Denver.
Well, I think this is one of those things that when you consider the creation of the new National Training Center down in somewhere south of Atlanta, some undisclosed area that we all know of between Jonesboro and Fayetteville.
Yes.
This is one of those initiatives, right? That you want to try to elevate your extended national team programs, and this is one of them. Obviously, I think when you look at like a deaf national team, the athleticism required to do this is no different than, the regular national team. You just dealing with people who are deaf and hard of hearing.
Right.
And I think I was a little upset that U.S. Soccer scheduled this before the match, because I think that was why we didn't see a whole lot of people in the stands.
Yeah.
But it was good to have the ability to host matches like this. Because again, with the deaf women's national team, especially, they're, reigning World Cup champs. They've won a lot, and you want to be able to elevate those and continue to push those forward. So thanks to Arthur Blank for that donation to the training center to make those training pitches possible. But this is good. And if I can shout out some local people, AO member Lorena Baker is a deaf sign language interpreter. She's not deaf. She's a sign language interpreter. She's fully hearing. And she was part of the kind of coverage around all of this. She was behind the scenes, if you will. And then the referee who is on the field is also an AO member from the Nebraska chapters. So congrats to those players or those people. But, it takes a lot of good, hardworking folks to pull this off, not just on the field, but from behind the scenes, and credit to Turner for wanting to do that. And this is, John, again, the benefit of working with Turner Sports as really their only soccer property. You would not have got this with ESPN, and we know that Fox Sports was not going to give you this. So congrats to the deaf women's national team for getting a massive win, and congrats to everyone who worked to put this on.
Before we move in, what's the mug this morning, by the way? I've yet to ask you.
Make it happen, John.
There you go. Okay, so
you can determine what it is. I'll let the comments figure out what it is this morning.
Let's see. So ahead of the Premier League announcement of all men's players out of contract at their current clubs June 30, Arsenal is thanking players leaving them at the end of the month, and most of them are dudes that and it's actually it is both a men's and women's release.
That's my big takeaway from this, John, is on the main Arsenal account. You had the men's and women's list together, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And so you had a couple of names that folks may know. Mohamed El Neni is probably one of the larger names that's attached. Arthur Okonkwo is on this, and so this means that Robin Ryan may be chasing after Okonkwo to sign him to a deal as they're now heading to League One. And Cedric Suarez also a part of the release, discussions ongoing with 3 other players. And so big statement. You had the men's and women's teams simultaneously released on the Arsenal account.
Yeah, and obviously the big name on the women's side was Vivian Miedema, who I guess wanted a contract extension. The club wasn't willing to do that. Obviously, she's coming off an ACL injury of her own, and kind of unfortunate that we weren't able to make that happen. But sometimes that is the reality of a post-injury player. But yeah, I think it's cool that you're releasing both men's and women's, because they do run on similar cycles on terms of contracts, and why not make sure people know who's who on both sides. Obviously, the women's team now calls Emirates home. Mm-hmm. It is the club's home stadium, and trying to treat them both as one club, just 2 separate teams. That's awesome.
Yep. I wish I had some game show music for the second half of your segment, as Enzo Maresco is officially announced to be the new head coach at Chelsea, but that's not why I wanted the game show music.
Oh, was that announced?
Yeah, officially official.
Congrats on his 6 months in charge of the Premier League club.
Yeah, so officially official. It's been announced, and so Chelsea hires a Pep lookalike to try and have their team look like Pep's at Manchester City on the field. So I see what they were doing here. You hire a doppelganger so you can be a doppelganger. I see how that works. I wanted to go backward before we go forward and discuss what happened yesterday. I played the national version of the description, and it was obviously edited down for time and clarity. Otherwise, the extended recap with our friends at Apple TV probably would have gone about 14 minutes. But I want to go back inside the VAR studio with our friends at the PSRA, who are apparently the best of the best ever, and just ask them. This was the explanation that they gave. Of course, it was buried at Friday afternoon late. What you'll hear is the description of the events in the the Mateus Bogusz action in the LAFC Atlanta United match that evolved into Dogs So Red. You will hear the conversation with the VAR and with Sergei Boyko, the center ref, and you'll hear the discussion. So this is inside the VAR studio, and this was how they broke it all down with what happened with the dog so red for Brad Guzan. Here's the listen, courtesy of our friends at Pro.
Given when Brad Guzan attempted to clear a ball with his head and collided with LAFC's Mateusz Bogus.
He appeared to be good.
No, it's incidental. No, I have a goal kick. No, goal kick.
You have time.
Goal kick. Ball is out. It wasn't it. Collide accidentally. But still, he didn't control the ball, David. Hey,
We're checking. We're checking.
Delay.
We're checking. We're
Goal
checking.
kick.
Right now,
Yes, goal kick.
I just have.
He accidentally.
Look at this angle here. Just make this full screen for me. Roll it
But
back
it's
nice
still-
and slow.
But it's still, ball is out.
You have an
He
incidental
kicked.
contact.
It's not
He
a dog, so
does
ball is
come
out.
slightly. He does come out a little bit. Look at this angle here. Look at this. He just gets his leg out a little bit there.
Mateusz, we
Check
check.
any other angles?
Yes, I have a front angle.
Difficult one.
Okay.
From my side, ball was too far from the attacker. And the second point, it was collision.
I mean, he stretches the foot out
Okay, can we
towards the
just see where
player.
the ball is? Can we just see where the ball is when there's contact
We
made?
still checking.
Still checking.
Go frame by frame.
Look at that. Is there a move?
We still check.
I do see a slight movement. But
There
is
is
that
a
enough
movement
for the-
towards the forward, so your call. But
Any other angles?
We check.
Could use the
We check.
bottom left for you.
boom. I think there is an intent in that kick.
Still checking.
Yeah, no, I
Still
roll
checking.
back. I'm going to go with.
As a heads up, there's also a possible offside at the start of that. Just
Okay,
as a FYI.
just check the APP.
Yes.
Sergey,
Can you-
we're going to recommend a review for possible dog so. We're just going to check the APP now. We've recommended a review for possible dog so.
Okay.
Back 3 seconds. Okay, Sergey, we see Brad Guzman, we do this collision,
Yes.
and then I see his right leg come out, and it's a trip in motion. We see here, he makes the header, and then I see his right
Like
leg
a
come
head?
out and catch him on the attacker's knee.
But ball is too far from the attacker. Can you give me full speed of side camera?
Okay, give him the right 18, full
Yep.
speed.
Right 18 at full speed. Coming in.
Hey,
Yeah,
yes.
just one camera.
Full speed. Can you give me full speed?
Yep.
Okay, go back about 3 seconds.
Yes, good.
I believe the attacker's still got an opportunity to get the ball if he wasn't challenged by Guzan.
Can you freeze when it was a fall?
Okay, just
Can you freeze when it was a fall?
no, go back to when it was fouled.
Yes, right here. This is
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
There is speed on the ball, but I think without this challenge here, I think he would have got that ball.
I can put in high end zone again.
Do you need to see any other angles, Sergey?
Okay, now.
Guzan had deliberately moved his leg to trip Bogus. The foul was clear and outside the penalty area, so the only reason the VAR can intervene is for a possible red card for Dogso. Direction, defenders, distance were all present. There is an argument that the speed of the ball was too great for likelihood of control. However, had there been no offense, the VAR believed that Bogus would have continued moving towards the ball, caught up with it, and then have an open goal to shoot at. After judging it for himself, the referee agreed and sent off Guzan after the review. That's all for week 16. Comments for the rest of the reviews.
So that was the rationale and what you heard, the individuals that you heard.
Well, first off,
Yeah.
thanks for playing. I do enjoy listening to the VAR audio.
Yes.
But yes, let's talk about the individuals on this call.
Okay, so the individuals on the call, your center ref is Sergei Boyko. You may hear the ARs, Logan Brown and Ben Pilgrim. Your fourth was Tori Penso. The VAR was David Barry, the main voice that you heard in the conversation with Sergei Boyko. The AVAR was Joseph Batko, who did contribute in the conversation, but the main voices you hear are Sergei Boyko, the man in the middle, and your VAR, David Barry. Go.
We've talked a lot on the show about how the Brits don't do VAR very well. And here we have a British VAR telling the center ref the call that he once made.
Mhm.
And that's what I took out of this audio. Wasn't that Sergei, they said, hey, Sergei, yeah, we definitely see a foul. Because I think that's fair. You have to go through and say, was there a foul? And I think we agree that
the case can be made. You
yeah,
can.
There's obvious. Yeah, it's more than incidental contact. Let's put it that way. And they do go through, and they, I think the point that I have a problem with here is that you can you bring the case to the referee of, hey, we need you to check this. We think that there is a clear and obvious red card here. You hear Sergi talk through that and say, I don't think that's close enough for me. The VAR says, well, it is for me, basically. And that to me doesn't sit right, because that's not his job.
You're leading the witness at that point.
Yes. This is, I think that was a bad case of VAR trying to referee a match. Because Sergi definitely said, oh, it's not close enough for me. But then he does ask, like, well, but give me the offside camera, which is a fair request of, like, hey, right at that angle, it's not. You look at the offside camera at the point of contact, it does look like the ball is within playing distance, right? And so, again, I think they ended up getting to the right call. I just think that it was very clear that David Barry, because he's British and knows more about soccer than every other human alive, tried to coach this center referee into making the call he wanted to be called.
Which is what you are not supposed to do, right? Because you're re-refereeing the game at that point.
Right. That's what the Brits do, John. They re-referee via VAR. And that's the problem. Get them all out of soccer. I think if we got every British person out of soccer, the game would be better.
So then you want the VAR for the Premier League to be away from the PGMOL, and you want it to be an office in Dallas, is what you're saying. Let the Colonials be the ones who are calling VAR, right?
Yeah. Why not?
The idea, so run through the 4 Ds one more time when it comes to VAR.
Defenders, distance, direction.
Okay.
So defenders, Brad's the last man back. It's very clear. There are some trailing defenders running through, but they're not part of the play until Bogusz is sprawled out on the ground. Distance to goal, distance to the ball, and direction of play. So again, direction of play, they're heading toward goal. We talked about this last week. It's not an obvious goal. It's a goal scoring opportunity, and the play is heading toward goal. You're not far. You're 20 some yards out from goal. All 3 of those are met. The distance of the player to the ball, AKA, are they able to make a play on the ball, is the one that, and they admit this in the VAR, review video that we just listened to. That was the questionable, the debatable piece here, right? Where was the player actually going to be able to make a play on the ball? I think you have to realize that probably he could have been able to catch up to the ball,
even after getting a facial from short distance and reacting the way that he does, going backwards and almost falling down.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have got to the ball.
Okay.
And therefore, the ball's still in play, and it's a goal-scoring opportunity.
Okay.
I think that's a reasonable thought. Now, you could also say, no, there's no way. We don't know, because Brad decided to trip him. And that's where you can't – it's hard to now judge when the last defender has, by judgment of the VAR, and I think the referee on the field, fouled that player.
Okay.
It's hard to judge.
Right. So then this is where, once again, when I bring you in to do reffing down here, what I always like to do is, okay, give me a reason why, give me a reason why not.
Yeah.
So understand both approaches in a particular way.
Again, I think they got this call correct, but I have to defend referees as much as y'all defend Gonzalo Pineda. So sit for that.
There's the shot. Okay. All right. So let's go back to yesterday. And I'll play the national clip again. Like I said, it is edited for time, not necessarily for clarity. And we will go over the national call yesterday. Atlanta United leading 1-0. It's a corner for Charlotte in the 41st minute. Once again, here's the call from our friends at Apple TV and Major League Soccer on MLS Season Pass. It is Danny Higginbotham, Steve Cangelosi on the call. Here was the play in front of the supporters section.
It is Uranen once again. On the outswinger, this takes a deflection. Cullen did it cross the line. A partial celebration in progress, but no indication yet that this is a goal.
Have a look. And it will probably be this angle, and you just have to look at Cohen's left hand. When he goes for it, his hand is completely over the line, as in terms of in the goal. It's a valiant effort, but I do know. The interesting thing in this situation is we know that VAR, they think it's a clear and obvious error, but there is no goal line technology. So the angles that we're going to see here are the angles that the referee's going to see, and it's so tough. So what?
After review, the ball did cross the goal line. The final decision is a goal.
All right. So clear and obvious error is what you're chasing here for a reversible call. When asked about it after the match, Josh Cohen said he thought that he got his hand up before the full ball crossed over the line. My issue.
I'm sorry, John. I'm going to pause everyone.
I know, but I mean,
of course, Josh Cohen thought about that. I'm sure Saba thought that he scored that break, that 1v1 with the keeper, but he didn't. Okay.
So, all right. So, you're going to say those things. I understand that. My point in this, and I've held this on purpose. I didn't want to say what I was thinking going into this particular action. Danny Higginbotham in that call mentions that there is no goal line technology. Mm-hmm. I do not know how Timothy Ford, the VAR, and I am waiting for Friday News Dump once again to see if this makes it in to inside the VAR studio, because there was no shot down the line. There was no the FAR AR kept his flag down, made no motion to have a conversation at all about this. So the AR doesn't do anything. Let's play continue. There is no shot down the line. Danny Higginbotham admits that there is no goal line technology, which we all know once they took away the target goal cam, we haven't had it since. I'd love to know if there was an angle that we did not see, which goes counter to the idea of having the VAR camera in the booth in the first place, if they're seeing things that we're not supposed to, because we're supposed to see the entire review, if I'm not mistaken. There are too many things here that do not add up to clear and obvious error and how you can overturn a call because you don't have the shot down the line.
The VAR had access to an angle that provided sufficient evidence that the ball crossed the hole of the goal line.
Follow-up. As Doug Robertson from the AJC said, follow-up. What angle was that? And I know that you're only allowed to ask the question one time.
Yeah, you can only ask one.
So it is in the phraseology of the question where it could have been asked. You could have taken the verbiage of the follow-up and framed it in the question. But now we're left with the notion of, okay, well, which angle was it?
And that's the problem, is there wasn't an angle that showed the ball is clear, because even the angle we get that probably is the best angle to show that it most likely went in crossed the line. There's no way to clearly and obviously show that the ball crossed the goal line.
Are you talking behind? Are you talking from behind the
no,
goal?
the angle that still shows it's about as down the line as we're going to get, and it does look. It looks like the ball went into the goal, like it does. However, again, as Jarrett loves to talk about, because he's right, we're talking about a sphere crossing a cube, mm-hmm. And these things are not congruent. They do not match up evenly, and it's tough to say that was a clear and obvious mistake by the on-field officiating crew. It sucks because, as Jason pointed out in the post-match, the full-time report, that changed the game.
It did.
But what also changed the game was Atlanta United not putting away its chances that it had in the first half.
Understood.
And I'm just, as much as you can look at the referees and blame them, John, I'm not going to sit here and try to use that as an excuse that Atlanta United failed to win its 6th game in a row at home. I'm just, I will say just up front, like, yes, I think the referees did not apply the laws of the game well here, and they did not apply the protocols and processes of VAR well here. But you also gave up 2 more goals. You also failed to capitalize on the momentum you had built in the first half because, despite starting off really well, you didn't get your first goal until 30 minutes into the game. And, to look at the referees and say, you're the reason for this result is, again, a mentality that's the reason that we haven't won but one game in the last 11.
Okay, well, what I am trying to do when we do this is I am separating on purpose. I'm separating the game action and game state. I'm putting it to the side. I'm specifically wanting to discuss what officials are going through, why they can call it a certain way, why they can't call it a certain way or shouldn't, why they should or shouldn't, I guess is probably the better way to phrase it. Why a call should be one way, why it could be another way. Walk folks through it so they can understand the rationale, but at the same time understand that there are flaws in the system that we need to continue to discuss because apparently these are the best referees on the planet. Just ask.
Well, I think the problem for me legitimately is that you had a AR who at this point probably was, if not on, close to the line because it was a corner kick, who should have had the best angle of anyone to determine if it was a goal or not.
Our side, yeah.
And to refute his eyes, his professionally trained, experienced eyes, for a camera angle that doesn't definitively show you anything is a failure of the system because again, there's no angle that shows if the ball physically, I mean, we don't have a goal line cam. We don't have goal line technology. We don't have any of those things, right? At best, because the angle from behind the goal is not a good angle either because you can't tell
where it is in relation
where it is.
Playing, yeah.
And to Higginbotham's point, just because Cohen's hand is fully across the line does not mean the ball is. I had this happen as an AR, I don't know, at least twice a game where a player is fully standing out of bounds, but the ball ain't. Because, if they're out of bounds, but if they're only a full inch over the line, well, the ball ain't fully over the line then.
And that's another call that I think we see a lot where you'll see a keeper run around the ball and he'll go out beyond the end line and he'll come charging back in with possession and everybody's sitting there going, like Joey and friends going, And it is the ball that matters. The person does not matter. It is the ball.
Doesn't matter one bit. This is not basketball. This is not football. This is for us, the ball is what matters.
And so what I've wanted to try and accomplish with reffing down here is walk us through it because you have the experience of calling all of the matches, but to understand that there are issues that need to be addressed, specifically goal line technology, specifically
I think I don't even think of it as a goal line technology. It's definitely either an overhead or a down the line camera, right? Why we don't have a camera on both goal lines, I blame NYCFC for some reason. Probably they can't do it in Yankee Stadium, and so that's why we can't do it across the league. But no, every league in this, I mean, even if you're talking about like Charlotte, Seattle, and Atlanta, surely they would a lot of these are NFL stadiums that would, they would want a close to down the line shot of an end zone, so being able to put that on your goal line, or at least as close to it as possible. I don't know why that isn't possible. I don't know why MLS can't make that happen because goals are the single most important action in this game. And that's why VAR only applies to goal, game deciding plays, and most of those outside of a red card involve a goal. So it's frustrating that you don't have the proper tools to execute VAR properly,
right?
In a league that
is a top
most of the time does it well.
Yeah, as a top 10 league internationally, and you do not have the technology that England does. And can lay it all out for us, whether it's Cyclops or the fancy computer generated stuff that we get to watch.
I would like, and this is where our MLS reporters are going to actually have to do some reporting, is go ask what that technology costs. Because obviously it's a chip inside of the ball, and then a watch on a referee. What does that technology cost? Is it more than just the ball and the watch? What else goes into it? FIFA uses, as you mentioned, that Cyclops technology as in tennis, as we all remember from the 2023 World Cup, that Ellison Ayers' goal was, or a save was judged to not be a save because of a Cyclops technology. And we can have our issues with that, but FIFA had the technology to at least be able to come to what they felt was a definitive claim. And others. I mean, shoot. I don't know, John, if you watched any, but they have a new women's professional volleyball league, and they don't have line judges. They just have Cyclops on the court, similar to tennis. They have an up ref, a down ref, but they don't have line judges because it's all Cyclops, similar to the way tennis does now. So clearly, that the technology exists to the point where entire leagues are using it. Leagues that, especially in the case of a pro volleyball federation, nowhere close to the revenue that MLS has at this point.
Yeah.
So, what are we using this Apple money on, if not to get calls right as much as possible?
Hutch with a question for you. Where would you place a chip in or on a ball that wouldn't cause a problem?
Ask Nike. I don't know, man. It's inside. I don't know how to explain it to you other than it's inside the ball. It's not like it's, I don't know, it's inside the ball.
Katie, we did solve this ages ago. Pitching MLS, having a ring cam. If you just had ring, and if it goes past a certain point, ring gets activated, it gets within the. If you have ring down the line and it gets past the goal line, then the ring goes off, and then you get to hear it throughout the stadium. I think I think your sponsorship is locked if you get ring to do it.
Yeah,
something like that. But
isn't that what they do in hockey? Isn't that or is that different?
That's they don't have. I don't think they have ring per se, but I mean they have they have the goal.
They have a camera that goes literally right down into the goal.
Yeah, they have the camera behind the
Obviously,
net.
it's a slightly smaller goal, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah.
So, I mean, they have the goal cam that's about a 3x3 square, and that it goes behind the goal, and then they also have elements where they can sit there and look at it straight down, and they can sit there and say, okay, is there any space in between the puck and the goal line?
Yep.
And if there is ice, which is white, and the goal line being red and the puck being black, if they see white in between, oh no, it's a goal. So that's where we are. But yes,
I blame NYCFC.
There you go. So what else is going on with Soccer for US POD, and anything else that we need to know about, sir?
Well, we've got another U.S. women's game tomorrow, so we'll record after that. And then we've got 2 men's games coming up after that. So we are going to be very busy.
Good.
Heading into Copa America, and then busy during Copa America, and then busy during the Olympics. So it's going to be a very busy couple months for me, in not just podcasting form, but also soccer organization leader form.
Oh?
Yeah.
Soccer organization leader form, Bart's going to be busy?
Yeah. I don't know if you heard, but Atlanta's hosting a U.S. men's national team game on Thursday, June 27th. So
yes, that is absolutely true. That is that I am aware. So it will be a very, very busy time here as the summer of soccer and the city of Atlanta and the Southeast overtaking the soccer planet just starts with Copa America coming up in short order, with Argentina and Canada kicking things off at the Copa inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium in front of about 10 or 12 people or so. So it'll be fun. Do I want to know how many car payments you made to pay for those tickets?
I don't have a car payment anymore, so that's how my car is paid off.
How many months rent did you sacrifice?
Not that many, just like 2.
Okay, just checking. Thank you, my friend, for walking us through everything and answering all of my silly questions when it comes to the reffing aspect of things and having us understand thought processes and clear and obvious and VAR and walking us through these kinds of things, because I want folks to understand what they're walking into every single time that they watch a match and can understand the rules of engagement and what you can and can't do and what you should and shouldn't do. Thank you for coming on, my friend. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. It wasn't pleasurable yesterday watching our team not win for a 6th time in a row at home.
Understood. And so we will continue.
But hey, it's all fine as long as just the players start finishing, because that's been the secret to success, is they just magically finish one game and they don't other games. So maybe that'll change.
Gets the shot. There you go. You got your shot in. Be well, my friend.
Bye, y'all.
That's Bart. And that's Bart on a Monday. Hutch asking about the chip's position. But that chip's position would determine the position of the ball relative to the line. To do any sort of meaningful calculations for the actual position of the periphery of the ball would require it being at the centroid of the ball. Well, and like I said, I think that if you took the Premier League approach of their goal line technology and how it's monitored, I would like to know. Actually, let's find out. Let's see if there's been any kind of Premier League cost goal line technology. Let's see if there is anything that has to do. Okay, so it's 2016. 2016, it cost about £250,000 to install the systems. Indication of the cost for all countries. Let's see. Cost of goal line technology in La Liga. That is a question. Goal line technology in the EFL. So it looks like it's about the same. FIFA set to make £300,000 in 2013 from the Premier League decision. 2015, $260,000 per stadium. So a decade ago, it was a quarter of. So a decade ago, it was £250,000, and they installed Hawkeye back in 2013. So if it was £250,000 per joint a decade ago, safe to say that now it's probably what? 300, 350. So 350 times 30. So you're talking what, 10 or $11 million, say, just to install it in each venue. And I guess this is operating under the assumption that you are keeping your surface the same and that you're not changing it. And then if you uproot your surface, how that hurts the installation of the product. So let's just say, all right. So Hutch is saying Star Trek force shields, and absolutely. But what happens if the Klingons take care of your force shield? So let's just say 300. 350. So 300 times 30. So yeah. So, $10 million to install in each venue using the Premier League idea. Cameras in the posts, like I said, and Tom, like I said, when we had the target goal cam, one rights holder iteration ago, that seemed to be a decent idea. And then Target, curse you, Dayton Hudson, for not continuing the sponsorship. But then, and it was just for those. It was just for those TV games. The main TV game, the A game on television, in a past iteration of the MLS television contract, got the Target goal cam. And then when that iteration went away, goal cam didn't come with it. It makes you wonder why. So that's the big. That is one of the larger questions. Why didn't goal line technology come with? And if it's only $10 million ish to say, I mean, even if it's $500,000, if it is doubled in cost over a decade, you're still looking at the installation of the technology. And if you assume for technological advancement, you're saying what, 30 times, so $15 million. If you drop $300,000 in each venue, or even if it's 500. And Hutch makes the point that technology might have even reduced the cost. So if it's $500,000 per venue with 30 clubs, it's $15 million. I would think that Major League Soccer could find $15 million, or at least get it sponsored to help fray the cost, to where you could have either goal line technology, your target goal cam return, or whatever in those situations. I would think that, and in as much as $15 million in an investment would take away a lot of our content, I think that at the same time, it would make things a lot less hectic, where those of us who, are losing their hair wouldn't have the opportunity to pull our hair out as much as we do because of having these discussions every week. But bringing in Bart this morning, what I wanted to discuss was the idea of re-refereeing the match in general. and getting back into the idea of going back to the bogus call and the dog so red. I just, after hearing the Inside the VAR studio, that was why and like I said, I admit that segment was about 3 minutes long, but I thought it was vital to hear the conversation between David Berry specifically and Sergei Boyko. Boyko thought that there was no way that Bogusz was going to get to it. David Berry, on the other hand, was re-refereeing the call from the booth, which is what you're not supposed to do. You're leading the witness. You're leading Sergei Boyko into the decision. Boyko said, goal kick. He's like, goal kick. Because to me, I don't know how Mateusz Bogusz, after getting a header from close range and is leaning back after impact, and I know that we're treating this like the Zapruder film, and I know that that's, down and away. I know that we're talking Magic Loogie here, but for the VAR to imagine that Bogusz, after contact from a close range header, is leaning back and is, falling backward and is going to magically close down 15 yards to where he can continue to make a play on a ball after an impact, and he's falling backward and he's trying to rebound his own, body motion. That is enough to sit there and say, yeah, I think he can, when the ref said he couldn't. And is it a clear and obvious error? The answer to me is no. It was not a clear and obvious error in the Los Angeles match. It was definitely not a clear and obvious error yesterday against Charlotte. And like I said, when we do this segment, it is to continue to be cognizant and just aware of what is happening every week when it comes to the officials. I'm putting it in game state off to the side. Yes, we can blend that discussion in other parts, but when we bring Bart in, I want to specifically discuss the idea of what these referees are seeing, what's going through their mind, how they can make a call, how they can refrain from making that call, and educate and just have us all informed as an informed audience going forward. That's why I do it. I try to put it away from game state. While, yes, we can talk about game state and how things changed and made it 1-1 as you're going into the half. Yes, it does. It does change things. That I think we can all stipulate and acknowledge that game state is a part of a discussion. But specifically in this example, I wanted to pull it to the side, walk through it, and wonder why the call was made as a clear and obvious error. And then once again, the comment that was made in the question, and like I said, I think that you can phrase the question where you can get the answer and not necessarily get the follow-up. Doug Robertson of the AJC. Without an inline camera, how was it clear and obvious that your initial no call on Charlotte's first goal was incorrect? The VAR had access to an angle that provided sufficient evidence that the ball crossed the hole of the goal line. It would, so for me, and like I said, this is hindsight being 20/20. Adding the verbiage without an inline camera, which angle of the cameras inside the stadium made it clear and obvious that the initial no call on Charlotte's first goal was incorrect. So basically taking what Doug would have had for his follow-up, blending it into the question. That way you give no wiggle room. You give no wiggle room and get an explanation from the lead official in this case. Without an inline camera, which on-site camera made it clear and obvious that the initial no call on the field on Charlotte's first goal was incorrect? Instead of getting the answer of the VAR had access to an angle that provided sufficient evidence that the ball crossed the hole of the goal line. So there's a way to phrase it and turn it into a complex compound sentence to pin them into an actual answer. This gave them an out. But this answer, the VAR had access to an angle. If we saw all of the angles that Timothy Ford saw, which is what the idea was when you got the VAR camera and that you got to see the whole process and you got to see the sausage being made, which one of those angles gave the answer to Timothy Ford that it was a clear and obvious error? Which one of those? Because if it was any of the ones that we saw, any of the ones that were made available as we saw him walk through the process, none of those, none of them, as Danny Higginbotham acknowledged on air, made it clear and obvious. I'll have to go back and watch the broadcast, but I have heard that there was a mention on air that there was an angle that was shown off air that gave that answer that was given by Pro to Doug after the match. If there is an angle, why was it not shown on air? That would be my next question, and that is a television production question. It was not an angle that was asked for, because we would have seen that angle, I would imagine. So once again, I still have more questions about this review than I do answers. Like I said, taking game state and all this stuff and putting it to the side. I still have in this review and the review of the bogus Brad Dog So Red for Brad Guzman, I have more questions of David Barry and his discussion with Sergi Boyko from In the VAR studio from Friday. And like I said, I cannot wait until this Friday to find out what the deal is if this gets viewed. Because the angles that were shown on Apple TV, you had a slash at about 15 yards away from goal down the line, which is not square. And then you had behind the goal. But once again, you still don't see the goal line. You see Josh going to his left, but you don't see the goal line, so you don't know where Josh is. You don't know where the ball is in relation to the goal line because of where that camera is positioned. And Derek says Atlanta's woes with VAR there because they constantly give VAR an opportunity to screw up. 4-card. No, well, 4-card says I'm wasting my breath. I don't think so. Says there's no changing to pro or MLS incompetence. But what I want to do in these cases, like I said, I want us to walk through each of these elements. I just want us to be continuously vigilant so it's not an accepted behavior. Does that make any sense? I want us just to, and like I said, this is not, because we are a show based in Atlanta, we continue to have evidence that we can bring up on a weekly basis, sadly. If there were other elements that were of calls that were going on that were outside of Atlanta's purview, I would bring them in just as much. I would bring them up to Bart just as much. And when I have a conversation with Bart and I discuss what's going on, for the show, here's the rundown. I told Bart, okay, look, we're going to go back to LAFC. Here's what we're looking at with Pro, the inside the VAR studio. And yeah, we're going to talk about what happened with Charlotte. And Derek, it is absolutely unacceptable. And Michael, you're spot on. Beam embarrassment not getting better. They get paid more. That's what happened with that new deal. I mean, Hutch, I would love for a continuous improvement program for Major League Soccer. I would love for something like that. What that would entail when it comes to investment and activity and all of this. Yes, Bart seemed okay with Bogish. I would disagree with him, and here's where I will disagree with him. And just once again, this is where I no, and by the way, Jay Googie, welcome. I think this is the first time you've been here. We did talk clinical finishing in hour number 1. We have, and it is something that has been a constant topic. So yes, we did talk about being clinical, and like I said, what I always do is I always have my notes. I always take my notes, and there's the notes of the first, all of the finished chances. No worries, it's all good. No, Googie, I'm glad you're here. Don't be a stranger. But no, hour number 1, it's whatever's on everybody's mind on a day like this. But yeah, we talk about the chances that weren't finished in the first to the quarter pole right there, and running through the highlights. But no, glad you're here. Bart is a ref, right? And if you remember in our initial discussion before inside the VAR studio, Emilio, what I want to have Bart do in these cases is say why it could be called this way, why it could not be called this way. I want him to present it to us as to either way. Bart said in the Bogish incident that all 4 elements could be met. I would disagree with him on the 4th element, which was the one that he was wobbliest on, where I don't think, and I agree with Sergei Boyko here, that Bogish could not have caught up with the ball in the matchup against LAFC. After getting a facial from close range, you know how you react when you get popped in the grill. You're going backward, and Bogish is trying to keep his momentum, but you think that after getting hit and you're going backward, you think that delay and gravity taking you against the run of play is going to have you catch up to a ball 15 yards in front of you that is rocketing over the end line? I don't think so. And that's where we disagree when it comes to that particular call. When it comes to this past week, to me, there is no definitive evidence. And if there is, we didn't see it. And that if we didn't see it, it was counter to why we had that on television in the first place. I will go back and rewatch the match today, and I will see if I can find that moment where it was discussed on air that they had an angle off air that was more conclusive. I'd love to know what that angle was. If I could get Kanji and Danny on here to talk about that, if they were the ones that brought that point up, I'd love to have them. Would love to have them discuss what's going on and what that angle was and where it was. Because the angles we got in the discussion we saw were not conclusive under any stretch of the imagination. So there you go. Reffing down here turned into almost an hour. It's disappointing that it did, but I think that it's important that we continue to be vigilant and understand what's going on a weekly basis and why things and how things can be better, as Hutch has let us know. Hutch is letting us know about Hawkeye, where Hutch is talking about, where all of you are talking about here in the Twitch pitch, and I love you for it. Other things going on in and around the planet. Like I said, if there was a coach that you would have ever sat down and watched, I don't know. Mbappe to Real Madrid. Looks like that's happening. Saka and Stones are going to miss the England friendly with Bosnia. And let's see. Wembley. Grealish is in battle for a squad place with England. Tom Morgan at the Telegraph said that Borussia Dortmund Ultras ignored direct demands from Wembley Stadium chiefs who met them ahead of the Champions League final in a vain effort to stop any pyrotechnic stunts. Because if you remember the beginning of the second half, they had a gorgeous pyrotechnic stunt. Apparently, the folks at Wembley basically said, can you not do that, please? And the Dortmund Ultras said, yeah, we'll take that under advisement. We're advising against it. Pitch invaders also arrested. Dozens of ticketless fans tried to break in. Security beefed up after what happened with Euro 2020. Widespread use of flares from Dortmund fans in the second half. Smoke went across the pitch. Governing body, meaning UEFA, says the FA is unlikely to face any charge. According to the Telegraph, the FA had strongly urged representatives from Dortmund's ultras groups to avoid any such stunts at Wembley during meetings ahead of the fixture. Time-consuming full body searches then ruled out as an option. Clubs often charged by UEFA over the use of pyrotechnics in Europe. There have been warnings over their increased presence at Premier League fixtures. UEFA is understood to have told the FA privately it was happy with Wembley's security overall. £5 million directly invested by the governing body played a major part in foiling copycat attempts for the ticketless folks. Strongly condemning the pitch invaders who came on the field moments into Real Madrid's victory against Dortmund. Marcel Sabitzer, by the way, he helped out one of the stewards stop a dude who ran onto the pitch. Pictures out there from the PA. He approached Jude Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. for selfies. Two other fans wearing T-shirts with the name Melstroy came onto the turf. Melstroy is the name of a Russian blogger who had reportedly offered £300,000 to any fan who came onto the pitch with his name on. Metropolitan Police had 53 arrests, 5 for pitch invasion, majority of others for attempting to breach security. So, good on them for that. Newcastle likely to make a move for Lloyd Kelly. And everybody's getting ready for the Euros. Euros themselves, you got some friendlies today kicking off this afternoon, and I guess we should sit there and say, okay, where to watch and where to watch them. So we'll go ahead and look at soccer on TV as we wrap things up here on a Monday, and we'll go over gossip, rumor, and innuendo as well. So Germany and England are having friendlies today. FS2 at noon, Gibraltar and Scotland. That's a barn burner. England and Bosnia-Herzegovina is on at 2:45. The Australia-China friendly happened at 5:30 this morning for those of you that got up really early. Fox Soccer Plus is Germany and Ukraine at 2:45. Paramount Plus has the Argentine Liga Profesional with 3 matches, 6 o'clock, San Lorenzo, Sarmiento, Defensa y Justicia, and Independiente at 8:15. Estudiantes and Godoy Cruz is at 8:15 as well. Albany and Liechtenstein is at 2 o'clock. Croatia and Macedonia is on at 1 o'clock. And so there's the handful of friendlies that are going on today. So watch and enjoy, as we always say. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and who's going where and who ain't going where. It looks like Bayern Munich want to sign Bruno Fernandes, and Jadon Sancho could play for Manchester United. Victor Osimhen is waiting on an Arsenal offer. Bayern Munich made an approach about signing Fernandes for Manchester United. That's from a Portuguese source. Jadon Sancho ready to go back to United following his spell at Borussia Dortmund, but only if Erik ten Hag leaves. Victor Osimhen waiting for an offer from Arsenal or Saudi Arabia. That's from our friends at Gazzetta dello Sport. Former Manchester United boss Sir Alex Ferguson met with Crystal Palace's sporting director Dougie Freedman in London to explore their position on the possibility of selling Mark Guéhi, Eberechi Eze, and Michael Olise this summer. Palace is going to chase after Crescencio Somerville if they have to sell Olise or Eze. Somerville is also a target for Liverpool. Kevin De Bruyne is expected to receive offers to leave Manchester City this summer, one of them from the league that we neither condone nor endorse nor report on. Cristiano Ronaldo, who was in tears after losing this past weekend, spoken to 2 of his former teammates in a bid to persuade them to join him at Al Nassr, Nacho Fernandez and Casemiro. Spurs could make an offer for Callum Hudson-Odoi over at Forest before the end of the month. Newcastle United is going to attempt to complete the deal for Lloyd Kelly this week. West Ham has moved closer to the £25.5 million deal to sign 18-year-old Brazilian forward Luis Guilherme from Palmeiras. Fulham have made Arsenal's Emile Smith-Rowe one of their summer transfer priorities, ready to bid for him in the early window. Marco Reus, I guess we should ask about this. Marco Reus is looking like the Galaxy have sent him a contract offer, and it would be for one of those 18-month gigs, like we're seeing with one of the handsome men in soccer who is heading across town, or just up the freeway. It's not really across town. So right now, discovery rights belong in Charlotte. Marco Reus has no desire to play in Charlotte. But because they have discovery rights, LAG has to come up with a figure. Charlotte has to go, okay, and then Marco Reus can join LAG. So LAG have sent a contract offer to Marco Reus, but they've got to work it out with Charlotte when it comes to the financials for discovery rights and turning them over and sitting there going, yeah, okay, you can negotiate what's in it for us. It's basically dibs. Remember what we were talking about with dibs? That's what we are. That's where we are right now with Marco Royce. Charlotte has dibs. LAG has to negotiate because Charlotte has dibs. Enzo Maresca, 5-year deal. Chelsea confident they can strike a deal for Fulham center back Tosin Adarabioyo, expected to become a free agent at the end of June. Chelsea and Spurs boss Antonio Conte expected to be named the new Napoli coach this week, according to our friend Nicola Shira. So that is that is a Monday. That is an absolute Monday. And 4Card wraps it up best. No angle. That was just the best answer to the question, but they're not going to say that. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, and we'll be chasing after things as we always do. Thanks, as always, for dropping by on a Reaction Monday and getting stuff off your chest and having conversations with me, having conversations with our guests. Thanks to Abe Gordon. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to you for dropping by on a Monday. We'll be back at it again, 9:05 Tuesday morning, where we'll discuss more stuff. That's the official term. We'll try and grab some guests. Later on this week, we're going to catch up in the WPSL because there's a big matchup later this week, Friday night, Decatur High School, WPSL, Impact Decatur FC, a big matchup early in the season. And we'll catch up with Maddie and find out what's going on with her. She's had a busy weekend, WPSL, NPSL, all across the board. Don't forget, toward the end of the week, we'll have all of our update shows involving the USL League One Championship, W, League Two, the NPSL Southeast, and the WPSL. All of that every single week, where we can get you ready for the weekend across all the divisions and get you ready for all the stuff. And thanks to all of you folks that are hanging out with us this morning and finding out about what is going on in our collective brains here on a Reaction Monday as we talk Atlanta Charlotte, talk about the news of the AAM, and get you ready for the week that will be. So as always, thanks for dropping by here on SDH. As we say here, since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Mucha Platial, play it safe. We'll be back in just under 22 hours. Be good. Thanks for dropping by on a Monday. See you later.